What's up, Wild Runs here, and I cannot believe the level of competition and closeness that we got out of potentially just like the most throwaway tournament of the entire year. Let's get into it. It's crazy.
I almost pee in my pants.
Alright, so starting off, it was looking like it was probably going to be a new FPO champion because Alexis Manduhanu was totally shredding with 9 under to start, which was a course record by 7 strokes. It ended up actually being a much closer race because she kind of faltered a little bit in the middle round, and even though she was 6 down on her final round, going into the final hole, it just wasn't quite enough because Owen the Dog Scoggins never gives up, and it doesn't matter how much of a dominant force you are, she will come for you, and that is what ended up happening. So even though they both birdied hole 17, they get to the final hole and Alexis has a little bit too much turn. It bounces off the tree into OB, and it was basically a done deal after that. Owen gets a par and Alexis gets a double. And that really is a pretty good precursor for what was to come for MPO. But looking at Alexis' stats, it is just totally insane the level of C2 putting that she was doing, 67%. I really don't know if even like a Paul really gets that very often. So to see Alexis, who has not really been the most on top player this year, is just insane. And I don't know what was going on. It was probably the lack of stress in this tournament because there's just so few people in the field that really helped her to have that boost of confidence that she needs. There's just probably a lot of nerves that come into play when you're trying to get to the elite level. And even Owen had to give a huge shout out to Alexis because it was a true shock to see how many circle 2 putts she was jamming and her level of consistency at this course.
You know, I feel like today she was like over putt me. Oh my God, I don't know what she eat this morning. Like seriously, like she didn't miss any putt. So that's why it's give me like she motivate me to putt better because I feel like when she make the putt, I feel like I have to make the putt too to keep up with her.
So one thing to note is that Holland Handley was lighting up in round 2 and actually tied Alexis for the course record with a 9 under. I really cannot believe this because there's so few courses out there that the FPO division gets anywhere close to 10 under. And I definitely think this is maybe an easier course, but with that said, it is still a tremendous feat that I cannot believe was accomplished by 2 players independently. And then on to MPO, it was looking like it was probably going to be either a Joel or Gannon win because they're just pretty dominant here, especially in the woods. They have that skill set. But it ended up being not quite the case because there was a lot of tree hits, a lot of OBs for both of them, and it just was not the best showcase from them, even though they had a decent amount of birdies. So Joel had 10 birdies through 14 holes in his final round, and it was looking pretty good, like he might take it down, but he was a couple of holes ahead of people, so even though he was ahead, you knew that there was a potential for people to pass him, and ended up being pretty much nothing because he ended with a bogey on 17 and a triple on hole 18 with 3 OB throws. So hate to see it, but that seems to generally be the case with this hole. If you're really going for a lot, you're going to have to pay the price because it is a tough hole with tons of OB. But still a great showcase from Joel with 2 50-footers in his final round and a continuation of his phenomenal woods performance after his insane 14 under at a Silver Series last year. And before we get to the top 2, I just wanted to point out Chandler Kramer and Kyle Klein. Obviously we talk about Kyle a little bit more, but they both were on top of it, had very good drives, amazing putts, and I think one thing about Chandler Kramer is that his forehand is just so smooth. So I think this is definitely a good showcase that you can have just a forehand on tour and be an elite level player. Obviously we know he's been phenomenal, like a 4th place finish at European Open, just great stuff all around. And even though he fell a little bit short, just 1 stroke behind Kyle for the podium finish, still a great finish for him because he just has such a sweet flow to his game, and I love to see him carve lines that very few people have. It really just feels like a backhand lefty throw, which is such a unique shot that we rarely get to see. And with Kyle, it was kind of the same case where he had a ton of great showcases and also had 67% circle 2. Kyle just cannot miss. I think if you're Kyle that was just lighting up at the European Open, I do not foresee you being that pumped about playing in a pretty swampy course in the middle of Missouri, but he just does not give up, and a great performance from him with a 49-footer in his final round. But on to the big 2, Gannon versus Presnell. And I would have to say I honestly did not think of Presnell as being really in the mix. I know he is a great player, and I've talked to him personally, and he seems like a great guy, but I think just his ability to finish in tournaments like these, pretty rare that he finishes very strong when he's in a very tight spot for the win. Going into the final round, they were tied at 15 under, and I think they really pushed each other to have great lines because they were just playing very well. And I think they really pushed themselves after the first like 8 or 9 holes where there really wasn't too much going on. You could tell that they weren't really playing their best. They were hitting a lot of trees, and there was a lot of talk about how because they had a rain delay, yesterday and they were having holes later today that they're going to be like so slow that it might actually be like dark outside and they might have to start calling time violations because they were playing so slow. But that never really ended up being an issue. And I would say after Gannon got his 50-footer on hole 7, it was definitely a much more intense race. Presnell was playing pretty good in the middle half, but with Gannon getting an eagle on hole 9, that seemed to be the finishing blow, at least for me as a fan, thinking that, yeah, Gannon's probably going to run away with it. Like, yeah, it's like his course. It makes sense. And he would continue to think that because he continued to get 3 out of the next 4 holes for birdie, and Presnell only got 1 of them. So it was looking like a pretty done deal. But then Presnell just goes off and he goes 5 for 5 to finish, which he absolutely needed to. And you could tell that Gannon was definitely not looking the best. He was hitting trees, and on hole 18 he had a decent look, but just totally shanked the line, got lucky enough to stay in bounds and got his par, which was a very lucky end. But Presnell just played his game, got a very good look up to the basket for his birdie, and it was not really an issue. So with that, they were on to playoff holes. And once again, I have to say that I did not foresee Presnell being really a threat in playoffs, because I can definitely tell that stress is a major factor for him. And they both had about the same looks for their upshot. Presnell gets a very good upshot right up to the basket, basically a like 5-footer. Gannon gets a sort of good like 25 footer, which like, yeah, it's like a stressful putt, but it's Gannon. He makes those all the time. It's not really anything to worry about. But with that said, there are a lot of major factors going into this. There's so much stress that is put on, even if you're Gannon Buhr, even if this is a silver series and you probably don't care about it all that much, this still has a tremendous amount of stress when you are that close to the win. And using Gannon's own words here, I rushed the putt. My heart rate was high with all the spectators trying to get on the green while I was putting. I should have just waited, took my time. Everything happens for a reason, and I could not be more happy for Presnell on his first Pro Tour win. So as you can tell, he missed it, and it wasn't even like that close. Like, yes, it went in the basket, but it was just very short-armed. You could tell he didn't commit to it. He has a lot of those that do go in, so I could definitely see that he was doing a shot that he's pretty confident it'll still get in the basket, but he just has an unlucky bounce, rolls out, and Presnell gets the easy putt for birdie and gets his first Pro Tour win. In his own words, he just kind of rushed it. It looked like it on the broadcast that he just didn't really give it his all, and I was just shocked. My jaw was dropped and I was yelling to my wife, "Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Gannon Buhr missed the putt?" Because obviously I like these guys probably more than most people on tour, so I really hope for the best for both of them, but I love to see the underdog story, and I truly root for Presnell in most cases if he's fighting for a win. So this is what he had to say in his interview.
Father on the bag today.
He's the best. Yeah. He supports me more than anybody. And, you know, my mom as well, my girlfriend, all my sponsors. But yeah, super happy he made the drive up to Caddy because my back is still a little iffy. So definitely having him here for support and to keep that weight off my back, I know definitely made me win.
Andrew, you've got us all shook.
And it really goes to show how much he truly cares and how much of a positive force he is for disc golf. So I really could not wish a better person to win this event, and I'm so happy for him, and I cannot wait to see if he gets any more wins for the rest of the season. Overall, just a great event, and I'm so happy that we got these close calls because that really increases the watchability of events like these where the wins don't necessarily mean as much, but if you are really fighting for a win, then it means so much more. So with that said, what do you guys think about this event? Were you shocked by Gannon missing the putt? Did you not even watch because it was a silver series, because there was very few people in the field? I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Wild Runs signing out. Peace.